Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is The Housewife Did It.
Bonus episode.
Welcome to our YouTube special.
Yeah.
So,
I wish I
guaranteed,
had
you're
put on
seeing
makeup.
us.
Yeah, I wish I had put on makeup for a video or a episode that is purely video.
Yeah, probably.
I didn't.
You look gorgy.
Thank
Lux Noir, you're looking
you. We'll
great.
look up. So, as promised, we have a Ruby Franke bonus episode. This is our first bonus episode.
Mm-hmm.
And for right now, we're going to keep them on YouTube. But that could change.
Mm-hmm.
We also don't know how often we'll do bonus episodes, like when they're needed. So, yeah, we're going to get started with our first one.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas for bonus episodes,
yeah,
or like something that you're just itching to see that doesn't fit into our regular programming, let us know.
Yeah, we're thinking things that aren't technically like true crime or that aren't fully developed true crime stories. So like current news or like mysteries or just things that you find interesting. History stuff that isn't currently or isn't categorized as true crime.
Yeah.
And that probably won't last as long.
Yeah.
As a true crime story would.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if you watched / listened to our last true crime episode, we mentioned in real-time true crime that Ruby Franke was arrested on suspected child abuse. Sorry. If you don't know who Ruby Franke is, she is a family-centered YouTuber who up until recently shared nearly every facet of her family life on YouTube in vlogs. And a podcast format. This included several instances of abuse and neglect. So we wanted to go ahead and expand this into a bonus episode for you, since there is just so much evidence of how she harmed her children. We wanted to be able to give you everything we could, and that has to be outside of real-time true crime, just based on all the details we have, but still not finished, so not enough for a full true crime episode. But yeah, so we're hoping to bring you more bonus episodes in the future. But for now, we're gonna tell you the story of Ruby Franke and her family.
Yeah. So Ruby Franke is a Mormon mother of 6 in Utah who ran a YouTube channel called The 8 Passengers, which essentially functioned as a vlog for her and her family of, you guessed it, 8. It launched in 2016 and reached over 2 million followers, which is just concerning.
Yeah.
People, though, have been, and a lot of those followers probably are some of these people who have been concerned for years. I was going to say,
like, how many of them are, like, concerned followers, like, keeping track of things?
Yeah. So people have been voicing concerns for years about the content of her videos and the parenting advice that she has been sharing.
By the summer of 2022, 8 Passengers was no longer uploading videos on YouTube, and Ruby was seemingly channeling all of her time and energy on a podcast called Connections. More recently, when the Connections YouTube was taken down, originally it was unclear why, but YouTube has confirmed that they took down the Connections page, which was hosted by Ruby Franke and her friend Jody Hildebrandt. Some of their most controversial videos, and part of the reason they're down, include those in which Ruby downplays the seriousness of eating disorders, blames rape victims, and criticizes U.S. immigrants, among other things. Other, like, polarizing viewpoints, other political viewpoints that go against YouTube's guidelines, and took the channel down. Both accounts, the 8 Passengers account and the Connections account, are both now formally banned from YouTube for being in violation of creator guidelines based on Ruby's arrest. So you can't see any of their videos from those channels. You can see snippets that other people have recorded. and put back out there, but you can't look at their channels.
In general, this is obviously not the full story, but in general, Ruby is a very harsh parent. In one video, she threatens to cut the head off of her daughter's stuffed animal. On the Connections website, which is mostly, on the website, it's mostly just Jodi Hildebrandt, and there's like parental coaching on there. There seems to be a lot of emphasis on this idea of truth versus distortion. Ruby Franke talks a lot about distortion in her videos, which, like, when I would see the snippets, I was like, I literally don't even know what she's saying. Like, she would just say to them, like, you're living in distortion. And I was like, what does that mean?
It sounds like the things that we hear about, like, Lori Vallow.
Yes.
Like things that, like, truly do not make sense, and that are based in, like, a false belief.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you listen to them, some of them you're like, what the fuck is she doing? And then other times you're like, what is she talking about?
Yeah. One image shows that some behaviors which would indicate evidence of truth include saying sorry, surrendering, recognizing and acknowledging limitations. But behaviors which would be evident of living in distortion include control, playing the victim, and hiding mistakes, which I think all makes perfect sense, given the context. The website also says children need to be instructed that the pain optional that exists in their life is because of their misinterpretations of reality and truth. Ironically, there's a section called Anger is Your Ally, a blog post on the website, which outlines some valid and, like, truthful experiences that might lead to anger. And these include people who hurt children, people who deceive others, and the sexualization of children. So I won't interpret that, I guess. The irony is obvious. Just gonna move along.
You have that information, and I'm gonna move on.
But beyond being a strict and harsh parent, Ruby also documented actual abuse on her YouTube channel. She threatened her children with losing their privilege to eat, and this was on, like, multiple occasions. There's some videos where she says, like, you will lose your privilege for breakfast. Others, you'll lose your privilege for dinner. Some, she just says, like, it is a privilege for you to eat, and you can lose that.
I think one of the most popular ones that's going around right now is, like, of two of her sons wrestling.
And she's, like, provoking it first. She's like, he, and then she, like, flips a switch.
Yeah, like, it's funny. Because they're playing.
Yes.
They're, like, really not, like, and they're both in on it. They're giggling. They're having fun. And toward the end of their, like, little wrestling match, she's like, if you don't stop, you will lose your privilege to eat dinner tonight.
I'm only going to say it one more time, and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat. You're torturing him. Stop it. I know you're not, but it looks like you are. Okay, wrestle.
In another one of probably the most famous clips going around, her 6-year-old, who I guess was in kindergarten at the time, forgot her lunch for school one day, and when the teacher called her, Ruby explained that it was her daughter's responsibility to make her own lunch and that this is a natural consequence of not doing so. Ruby said in the video, hopefully no one gives her food and nobody steps in.
She said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
In another video, she explained that her children should have no expectation of any personal space when they live in her home, which, of course, they have no choice but to live in her home because they are her children.
Right.
She told her kids once that the camera actually holds her accountable and keeps her from getting too mad.
The camera's rolling, so I can't get that mad.
Obviously not well.
No. No, it does not.
There's one video that I wanted to mention, but I couldn't find it when I was like actually doing my research, but I've seen it before, where she is talking, and anyone who talks about this case will tell you that her 2 youngest children got the brunt of it. Like, it seemed that she disliked them the most. And so the youngest daughter, the one who forgot her lunch that one day, I don't know what she had done. I guess maybe she had pushed somebody or hit somebody. And Ruby in the video is pushing her over and over again and saying, do you like that? Do you like being pushed? How does it feel when you get pushed? And kind of like, and I guess in her mind, trying to get her daughter to see that, like, it's not nice to push people. And, like, that's not how we treat people. But she's physically pushing her over and over again. And there are some parents who will say, like, if my child bites me, I bite them back. And, like, show them, like, it doesn't feel nice to bite. Like, and arguably, people will say that's not what you're supposed to do. That's not how we teach that lesson. But especially, like, over and over and over again, like literally the entire video is her pushing her daughter and then taking her hands off and then pushing her again and then taking her hands off.
Yeah.
Your way. Can I push you?
No.
I kick you?
No.
What if you're in my way and I want to kick you? What happens?
Well, did you know somebody was in my way in line and then they kicked me and stomped me?
Well, did you know that Russell was in your way today and you hurt him so badly he had to come home?
Eve, everybody has a space around them that is their boundary, and you can't go past it because you can hurt them.
What if I took my hand and I hit you like that? Would that be crossing the boundary? Yeah.
Is that okay to do?
Is that okay? But what if I really am in a hurry and I just don't like you being there? I have a really, really good reason for just getting in your boundary.
You can't do that. Well, if you do that, that's mean.
But why do you do that to other people?
I'm sorry.
I'm glad to hear you're sorry. You have a lot of people to tell you're sorry to.
And I think that's the only video where there is any sort of, like, physical punishment shown, like what Ruby's doing with her hands. In another video with her oldest son, which, like I said, the youngest 2 seem to be the 2 that get the worst of the abuse. The oldest 2 are kind of made to act like a second set of parents. But they do also experience the abuse. In this video, Ruby explained, it's her and her oldest son, like, sitting together, like, they're talking, they're kind of laughing. And Ruby explains that she took his bed away from him for 7 months and made him sleep on a beanbag chair because he had played a prank on one of his siblings. And in the video, she's, like, asking him, like, do you want to tell everyone why you lost your bed? Or do you want to tell everyone where you've been sleeping? And he's like, well, I finally got my bed back after 7 months. And she kind of says, like, oh, people are going to be mad at me for that.
Yeah.
Like, and he explains, like, he's been sleeping on a beanbag chair and that he played a mean prank on one of his siblings. And, like, she's just laughing the whole time. Like, you can see that she, like, legitimately, like, doesn't care about her actions.
Yeah.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, and he's like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
it, it was not.
It sounded like, I don't know whose statement and what, but it sounds like Ruby and or Kevin have come out and said that he was offered multiple options, like a pull-out couch and something else, but that he chose that because it ended up being the most comfortable, which is like still a problem. If that is the most comfortable option that he has, if that is what gets him the most well-rested for school, and it clearly still is not a good option, then, like, that doesn't make me feel any better.
Like, nobody's like, oh, she's so mean, she made him sleep on a beanbag chair instead of a pull-out couch. People are like, oh my god, you took your child's bed for over half a year.
Yeah. Like,
that's the problem, honey. We don't care about his options.
Yeah.
We don't care that he chose the beanbag chair.
Yeah.
We care that you took his bed away for 7 months.
Yeah.
He was without a bed for as long as Scandival was carrying on.
Yeah. This is just a thought that I didn't flush out. So there were other videos of just like her kids like yelling at her, and like there's one of him and he's like, stop talking and listen to me. And then there's like another one where she like asks her, the young girl, the 6-year-old, I guess, why she didn't tell her something. And she said like, Mom, because I'm scared of you. And it's just like, these kids are, for like, at least there is evidence that like they are pushing back. They are saying to her like, this is what you're doing to me. And that's like, I mean, of course, the kind of people that watch her videos are just like, that's kids, back talking. But yeah, anyway.
I agree, though. When you watch their videos, it is like they are clearly very like strong-willed
They're
children.
trying to advocate for themselves,
and they will like push back to her a little bit, and like even in the video where they're talking about the bed, he's kind of like, dude, you took my bed away.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think even in a video, her oldest daughter has like commented about like how she has to take care of the other kids, and Ruby just kind of like laughs it off, and she's like, haha, like, but that's what your job is as an older sibling, like that's how it's supposed to go. And they do like push back, but she just always is like, well, this is how parent-children relationships are supposed to be.
Yeah. So Jody Hildebrandt, Ruby's partner, had her counseling license taken away prior to creating her new business, Connections. So Jody is also a member of the LDS Church along with Ruby. She lost her license because she reported a patient's porn addiction to an LDS church leader without that patient's permission. So obviously a deliberate HIPAA violation, which is what led her to have to create Connections, which then makes me believe, like, obviously a total sham. Like, she doesn't even have licensure anymore to be doing any of this.
Yeah. In 2020, viewers signed an online petition asking CPS to look into the Franke family and check on the wellness of the children. However, neighbors of the Franke family claimed to be shocked by the news of Ruby's arrest, saying, I think we saw some weird things, but I don't think anybody thought these kids were being physically abused to that degree, which I find really interesting because she was so well documenting it on YouTube to the point where there was a petition going around 3 years ago to get them looked into, but she was managing to hide it from the people that lived around her. Like, it's just interesting to me that, like, she's putting it online.
Yeah.
Where anyone can see it, but she's, like, masking it to her neighborhood.
Yeah. And, like, what does that mean? Just that they weren't walking around with bruises on them? Like,
right. And, like, and the other thing, like, how much interaction does she have with those neighbors?
Right.
For them to say, like, oh, well, it didn't seem like anything was going on. Like, okay, did they come over, like, once a week?
Yeah. And
they all seem like happy family. Did you just see them like outside in their yard sometimes and you're like, looks good to me? Like yeah, I don't know the degree to which the neighbors would have been able to see, but I imagine since she was so public about it,
They have access to YouTube.
Right, that she wouldn't have hidden it from the people around her.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Utah CPS had been called on Ruby Franke in the past, but any cases had been closed due to insufficient evidence. Which does make me wonder, like, so Russell comes out, we'll get to this part, but, like, Russell comes out, like, super malnourished. So you're telling me, like, that's, like, the first time that there's any physical evidence? Like, that's just weird to me, but...
Right. Like, how... Because, like, we know she's taking their privilege to eat. Like, had it just been to where he hadn't lost his privilege that many times when they had checked?
Yeah.
Or were they ignoring it?
I don't know. I also wonder if it got worse once her and Kevin separated, but we'll also get to that. So, a couple weeks ago, Franke's 12-year-old son, Russell, escaped from the home of Jody Hildebrandt and ran to a neighbor who called 911. It was truly a heartbreaking call to hear that man. He did so well, but he's just, like, gradually realizing how much worse things are. He told the operator that Russell looked emaciated. He had open wounds and duct tape around his wrists and ankles. The police did later find one more malnourished child at Jody's house, which, to Mary's point, I assume is the other youngest. When this man who called 911 asked Russell, though, if any other children were taped or bound in the home he just escaped from, Russell replied no, and that it was his fault that this had happened to him. Which also feels like, I'm glad he escaped then. Like, he had the insight to know, like, this is dangerous and I need to get out, even though he had been conditioned to think, like, he earned this, you know?
Right. And I imagine, like, if it is just him that's getting that degree of it, then, like, that does, I think, make a child think, like, oh, it's only happening to me, so it must be something I've done.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, thankful that he was able to get out and, like, get somewhere for help. Like we said, like, they are very strong-willed children. Like,
yeah,
they know that, like, this is messed up, and I'm glad that he was able to get away.
Yeah.
The video is, like, absolutely heart-wrenching because you can hear as the man is asking Russell the questions and then referring and, like, retelling to the operator, like, his voice starts to break. Like, he's really upset about it, and he says, like, that he kind of has always thought that Jody Hildebrandt's kind of off for some reason, but that their houses are very far away, and so he's just never, like, known her well enough to see more about it.
Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help, and he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Okay.
And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid. He's 12 years old.
Are the neighbors out of their home, or is anybody looking for him that you can see?
No. Our homes are far enough away. I'm not sure. How did you get out of the house?
Porch. He went out.
He says he just left through the porch at the neighbor's house. Her name is Jody Hildebrandt, and she lives 2 doors up the street.
Out here in Cayenne, the houses are far apart.
Yeah, out here in Cayenne, the houses are far apart, so he walked just under a block to get to our house. He rang my doorbell and asked me to call the police, but he's very thirsty and...
need an ambulance?
I don't think he needs an ambulance. I'll let the cops decide that, but His ankles are taped up, and he won't tell us why.
Okay.
But he has duct taped around each ankle. Yeah, there's sores around them. I think there's a good chance he's been...
He also said...
Oh, and he has them around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well. Okay, this boy has been... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Okay. Let's get the paramedics headed over that way, okay?
Oh, that's a good idea, too.
Has he told you where his mom or dad are?
Haven't asked him that. You know where your mommy is?
I really got these moves.
Yeah, I'm sure that doesn't matter, son. Do you know where your mom and dad are?
Well, actually, I don't know where my mom is, but I do know where my dad is. He's not anywhere here. No. Nowhere here.
Okay. No, he doesn't seem to. He says he knows where his mom is, but...
He doesn't know where his dad is.
That's correct.
I do know where my dad is.
Is his mom home?
He doesn't live
He just says he doesn't live around here.
Is his mom
we're
in
getting...
this area?
Is your mom around here? Have you seen her lately? He doesn't know where she is right now.
Does he know his mom's name?
What's your mom's name? Ruby Franke? Ruby Franke is his mom's name.
Okay. How do you spell the last name?
Franke.
Franke.
Okay. And does she live in the area?
No, I'm not sure where she lives. He's trying to help us, but he's...
That's okay. We don't want to stress him out too much. The officers will go over all these questions with him anyway. I just want to stay on the phone with you until we get some help, okay?
Yeah.
Can you ask him if any other children were in the home he came from?
Okay. Was there any other kids up at Jody's house? Anybody else? 10 and 14, and they're still at this house.
Are they tied up as well?
What's the deal with? Are they being held? Do they have wounds on them as well?
Nothing bad going on with them.
Okay.
It's just
Okay. So they're able to walk around the house and everything. Well, okay. He says everything's fine with them. He says what's happened to him is his fault.
That's not That's sad to hear. They're coming to you as quick as they can, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Really well. I just want to make sure.
He's fine. I've got him sitting here. My wife, he got him water and giving him something to eat because he's hungry, and I think the young man, he's hearing his stocking feet. So he escaped. You did good. Enjoy that banana, okay? Is Jody up there right now?
Yes.
Okay. Jody Hildebrand is up there right now.
Okay.
So she may come looking for him here soon, but I think we need the cops here as soon as possible.
I'm just asking where he is now.
Yeah, she's a bad lady. We didn't realize how bad.
Does he have anything with him?
But no, he's wearing a long sleeve shirt and shorts, and it's way too big for him.
Can you tell me what color the shirt and shorts
are? Okay, the ambulance is here.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll let you go then. You did a great job.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Ruby and Jody were then each arrested on 2 counts of aggravated child abuse. The Franke's oldest daughter, Sherry, actually made a statement saying that they have tried to tell police and CPS about this for years, and that she is so glad that justice is finally being served.
On Instagram, Sherry wrote, quote, "Finally, today has been a big day. Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell the police and CPS for years about this, and so glad they finally decided to step up," end quote. Which I would argue that they didn't really step up. When a child is starved, bound, and injured, and an outsider is calling to tell the police, it's a lot harder to ignore that and not catch some serious heat than just doing like a welfare check that no one else knows about.
Yeah. Ruby's sisters, Ellie and Julie, made a similar statement saying that they had spent years behind the scenes trying to get help for the children.
Yeah, Ellie, Julie, and Meacham.
Is this another
Is
sister?
her third sister's name?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're also content creators, and they put out a social media statement that said, quote, "For the last 3 years, we have kept quiet on the subject of our sister Ruby Franke for the sake of her children. Behind the public scene, we have done everything we could to try to make sure the kids were safe. We wouldn't feel right about moving forward with regular content without addressing the most recent events. Once we do, we will not be commenting on it further. Ruby was arrested, which needed to happen. Jody was arrested, which needed to happen. The kids are now safe, which is the number one priority," end quote.
Ruby's husband, Kevin, has not faced any charges at this time. It also seems that Kevin and Ruby have actually been quietly separated for about 13 months prior to any of this. Kevin's lawyer says that Kevin actually heard from Ruby on the day that she was arrested, but beforehand, telling him that things were not looking good and the police would be coming after her and that he was needed for an emergency. How she got tipped off to that, I don't know.
Maybe just because he ran off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's speculated, purely speculated, that Ruby and Jody were in a relationship. And that was part of the separation, and that's why Jody was then continuing the abuse with the children and why they were at Jody's house in the first place. But just speculation. I just think it's worth pointing out as we get into Jody's history of abuse soon. But about a week into the arrest, Ruby was moved to a medical observation block at the Purgatory Correctional Facility, which cracks me the fuck up. Like, I am sure that kills them that that's where they are being held. But she was quickly returned to her normal cell. However, Jody was also taken into medical holding and had to stay there for several days. Her lawyer said, quote, "Jody has experienced a life-threatening medical issue resulting in her hospitalization for several days," end quote. It's unclear what either woman was hospitalized for, but apparently Jody is still under medical observation. I don't know what her lawyer considers life-threatening.
Yeah.
If it's really life-threatening, but they're continuing to observe her. But Ruby is fine.
Interesting. So far, the two have been denied bail. The children have been ordered to remain in state custody. And in an initial hearing, Ruby blamed her own children for her actions, to no one's surprise, stating that one of her children sexually assaulted another, which then caused that child to sexually assault two others. She said that the original child, who has not been specified, later confessed to sexually assaulting 20 children. She said that this child first started watching porn at the age of 3, which, that sounds like a Ruby parenting issue.
That sounds like something that needs to be
not
corrected.
Yeah, not allowed. Ruby believes that the child should not be in a home with other children, which is weird because this child obviously lived with all of her kids under the same roof. So.
Yeah, she never wanted to take them out before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that this is interesting considering that she is such an authoritarian.
Yeah.
It's, like, difficult to believe that she would allow her 3-year-old to view porn without any sort of consequence or lesson coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think even that she allowed her 3-year-old access to the internet.
Right, yeah.
Or wherever, or magazines or whatever they were viewing porn on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of that feels far-fetched. But I just fail to see how she has such a strong reaction to things like something getting cut up, but she, like, allowed her toddler to view porn, and it spiraled to the point of, like, a pattern of sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think we could argue that Ruby would likely care more about her belongings and home decor being ruined than her children being harmed, but I think since this is so deeply rooted in a false idea of Christianity, I think the porn thing would be something she would want to nip in the bud as soon as it starts, because that's, like, a big thing that people who believe in a false Christianity.
Well, and that's, like, what Jody does, is, like, porn
Right.
addiction counseling, so.
Right. Yeah. Jody's niece Jessie has also spoken out, alleging abuse while in Jody's care about 10 years ago. They lived with Jody for about a year and a half and said that during that time they experienced physical abuse that pretty closely matched Russell's at the time police were called to Jody's home. Jessie said, quote, "I experienced being tied, I experienced being duct taped, I experienced being blindfolded, I experienced severe isolation, I experienced severe emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse. I experienced being told I shouldn't be around other people, being told that I was dangerous to be around. People were afraid of me to the point where I was afraid of myself. I was isolated for up to 12 hours a day. I was forced to sleep outside in the snow. Jody accused me of being a sexual addict and of being addicted to masturbation. I've never met Ruby, but the things that she is saying and regurgitating are very, very familiar to me. The philosophies and the therapeutic modalities that she is using are Jody's, and these are not new. This is a pattern." End quote.
Wow.
I did watch the video of Jessie, and they said that Jody would tell them that she was, like, beating the sin out of them.
Oh.
Because I don't know how old they were at the time, but
yeah,
they are non-binary.
Okay.
And so, again, I don't know, like, what, like, signs of, like, gender fluidity they were showing at the time, but I think that that's kind of what Jody's abuse was based in, and that's why Jody was saying that they were a dangerous person, that people shouldn't be around them, was because they weren't straight or cisgendered or whatever it was at the time that they were staying with Jody. So yeah, it was very sad video. Jessie's, like, clearly much older now, like, at least our age.
Okay.
If not older. So this would have been probably a while ago. But yeah, they were able to give, like, very clear accounts of what had happened during the time that they stayed with Jody and how it is similar to what Ruby's children experienced.
Yeah.
That's
wild.
Yeah. Last thing I have is that if you suspect child abuse, please call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4A-CHILD or 1-800-422-4453, or go to www.childhelp.org. All calls are toll-free and confidential, and the hotline is available 24/7 in more than 170 languages. You can also report to DCFS or CPS in your area, in your state. We've talked about mandated reporting before. So if you see something, say something.
Yeah.
If they're not responding to what you've said, keep trying.
Yeah.
Until somebody does.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, I imagine this could be enough for an entire true crime episode one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Once they get through the trial, I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
Because if the things she was doing on camera were bad enough for people to call CPS, like, you have to imagine what she was doing off camera, especially coupled with what Russell like looked like when he got to the neighbor's house. Like, that's surely not the first time that happened. Although if they just had started staying with Jody and that was what Jody had been doing to Jesse, maybe that it did escalate at that point.
Yeah.
But we also don't know. Like I said, Jesse looks to be about our age now. We don't know if anyone stayed at Jody's home between Jesse and the Frankies. So surely more will come out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we know for now.
Yeah. Comment anything else you know. Let us know if you liked the bonus episode. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Bye.